So the year is 1952, okay, 1952. It's in rural Indiana. I can't say the word rural very well, but it's in backwoods, Indiana. And the town is called Milan, Indiana. So 1952, Milan, Indiana gets a brand new basketball coach. And now I'm from Indiana, and if you know anything about people from Indiana, especially people that are old like me, Indiana is all about basketball. When I was a kid, Indiana had one basketball tournament. So it didn't matter if you were a small school or if you were a large school, you all went into one basketball tournament, and there was only one state champion in Indiana. There was one Christian school state champion, and there was one public school state champion. So that was really cool to grow up in a state like that, and then we changed because of money, and that's how it is now. So now there's several classes. But back in 1952, there's one basketball tournament, and then this coach comes in. He replaces the coach that is probably the most loved coach at this school. This coach got fired for buying uniforms without asking the superintendent's permission. So here's this new coach coming in. The town doesn't like him. The town hates him. He's got a new philosophy of basketball, which if you're going to mess with anything in Indiana, you don't mess with basketball. So he's got a new philosophy. He's changing the team a little bit. This team has never really been successful. They've won some regional championships, but they've never gone to the big show. They've never gone to the state tournament. And what happens is this new coach comes in his first year. They do okay. They think they go to regionals. They win regionals. But let's fast forward to 1953 or 1954. This is when the team, 160 people in the school, 80-some boys, the team wins the state tournament in 1954. 161 kids in the whole high school. That's 40 per class. And they beat the school called Muncie Central, which had a couple thousand in their high school. Now, if you know anything about the story I just told you, it's basically the real story of the movie Hoosiers. Here's a school that should not even be close to competing with people that have 2,000 people. And if you go to Muncie, Indiana, and you go to Muncie Central, they have a gym that's bigger than Cedarville University's gym. There are some gyms in Indiana that are bigger than even some small college gyms, and that's just because of how big that is. So here's what happened with this coach. This coach brought in this new philosophy. He said, you're going to trust defense, you're going to trust my offensive mindset, you're going to trust each other. The town didn't want it. The coach didn't. Even in the movie, it portrays Gene Hackman not really believing in the town. But at the end of that movie, and at the end of the real story, they trusted each other, and they ended up beating a school that they should have never have beaten. So my question to you this morning is, why in the world, or how in the world, can a team that is made up of basically nobodies accomplish great things? Then on the flip side of that, how could a team of really awesome players accomplish nothing? You know, we've given the story of the movie Miracle, or the story of the Miracle on Ice from the 1980 hockey team, and the idea that we had not beaten the Russians in years, and a lot of times they're like, even our pros can't do it. And the coach from that movie says one thing, and I want you to hear this. You can't beat them not because you're not good enough, but because you don't play together. And I think that's one of the things when you look at the idea of execution. Execution is, you know, you're putting a plan in action, but you have the right people in place. Now think about that. A lot of teams try to execute, but they can't do it because they're not putting the plan in action, number one. That's the hardest part. But then also you don't have the right people in the right seats. So sometimes when you're successful, it has nothing to do with the plan. It has all to do with the people. So what I want to do today is kind of walk you through what some simple things on what you can look at when you look at execution. So there are three words I want to hit on. I'm going to try to hit on all three of them. Number one is awareness. Okay, and we're going to share with you a Google site and that you can see, and you can have all these notes. The guys are videoing it, so you'll be able to have that as aware. But with awareness, you're just aware of what's going on. That's the first step. How many education majors in here? Bloom's taxonomy? Okay, of higher learning, Bloom's taxonomy. This is the first level of learning. You are having a knowledge of something. So you're aware of something. You're able to define it. You're able to identify it. And then you're able to explain it. That's the first thing. My kid, I have a young son who's in second grade. That's what he's learning to do. Define, explain, identify. That's just kind of what Ethan's doing right now. So awareness is number one. The next step is buy-in. So now you've got your awareness, you go to buy-in. And buy-in goes to more of how do I apply this? How do I do my job? How do I have the heart to do it? Now let me tell you this, if you cannot have the buy-in, then go back to awareness. And I'm going to get into how the organization fails a little bit in this, but one of the reasons why people don't buy into a cause or they don't even buy into a plan is because they don't have awareness of that plan. So awareness is number one. That's the first level of learning. The second level of learning is buy-in. And that's when you're applying things. You're getting things set up. You're doing your job. And then the highest level is ownership. And this is where you're just saying like, okay, the chips fall on me. And we have a saying where we say it might not be your fault, but it is your problem. And the whole idea of that is that at this stage right here, you're proposing new ideas. You're generating new ideas. You're coming up with creative ideas. You're being critical in a good way of what people are doing. You're analyzing things. So that's higher learning. You start with awareness, you go to buy-in, and then you go to ownership. So how do you actually do that? How do we apply that as individuals? So let's look at it from the individual point of view, and then we'll look at it from the organization. So for the individual, for me as an individual with awareness, I have to seek to understand before I'm understood. Meaning it's my job, first and foremost, to understand other people and to get to know them the way that I should get to know them. But let me back up a little bit. I've got to know my priorities and my objectives. You know, a lot of times why people can't execute and can't get things done is they don't really know what they believe or who they believe in. So for me, I've got to know my priorities, I've got to know my objectives, and I've got to communicate those to you. So if I don't communicate to you that family's important, and then I leave to do a family thing with my family, yeah, that was a lot of families. But if I leave and do that, and you're like, well, why is he going away in the middle of the day? If I don't communicate that family's important, you're not going to understand that, and you're going to go, wait, where is he? So I've got to communicate that. Also, I've got to be really able and willing to listen to what others think that their priorities are and their objectives. So that's awareness, just understanding that. The next one, going to buy-in, is the idea that I have to be willing to be who God created me to be. Psalms 139 says, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. Romans 12 says, it lays out in the middle part, or the first of the middle part of that chapter, that you have been given a gift by God's grace. So use it. If teaching and teaching, if service and serving, use it. But, can I put a big old but right in the middle of this? That doesn't mean that you walk into a team and say, well, I'm an extrovert, so everybody accept me as an extrovert. I am an extrovert. But I have to be careful in this team that I'm not always the extrovert, because I'm a human starting gun and a human stopping gun. Because I'm an extrovert and I sit in a meeting with y'all, if somebody makes an idea and I say, nah, that ain't going to work, automatically nobody else is going to say another idea. And some of that's because of my position, but some of that's because of my personality. So I have to have humility enough to go, okay, in this room, who does the team need me to be? And that's buy-in. And then when I take ownership, the next thing for me as an individual, I am saying I'm not going to blame other people. If something goes wrong, I'm not going to throw other people under the bus. I'm not going to blame somebody else. I'm going to deal with the situation. I'm going to handle the situation. And I'm going to say, well, this is what we decided as a team. How many teams out there have made decisions you don't like? They argue about the decision in a room like this. A decision's made, and then the decision goes completely wrong. How many teams actually go, well, that wasn't my decision. That was his decision, or that was her decision. And that's the difference when you have execution. When you have execution, first of all, you got to be aware of it as an individual. You got to buy in, and then you got to have ownership. So how do we do that as an organization? Well, as an organization, it is my job, and it is your job to seek clarity, my job to provide the clarity. It doesn't stop there. I have to make sure that you really understand what I'm talking about. So that means I've got to ask good questions. Because, let me be very clear about this, if an organization fails, it's not on the team member. That's not the reason the organization failed. The organization failed because of lack of leadership. Meaning that the leader didn't take the time to make sure that everybody who's in the room understands and has clarity of what's going on. I struggle with that. I'll teach something and I'll be like, oh man, they should get this by now. And then it's March and they're still not getting it by now. Guess whose fault that is? That's my fault. Because I have not taught that clarity, but I've also not ensured that clarity. So the organization has to do that. And you might be saying, well, wow, that's a little tough on the organization. Well, welcome to leadership. Leadership is making sure that people understand what you need from them, but also making sure that they understand what you need from them. I think that's a key part. The next thing is the buy-in part. And what you do with this, so after you have the awareness, the buy-in as an organization, I am getting people involved. And I struggle with this. I did this wrong with our full-time team just a couple weeks ago. I was sharing with them how we're hiring for the summer, and one of them raised their hands and go, well, are we going to be involved in this? And I'm like, oh boy, I did something I even tell people not to do. I had a new philosophy on how I wanted to hire, and I was taking us down that road, but what I've forgotten to do is bring the team along. So I'm trying to give them clarity in a meeting, but providing clarity just with my mouth wasn't enough. If I would have brought them along a couple months earlier and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking, this is where I'm moving, that would have been a different ballgame. Now, this team member was so gracious, and they understood, but it was real. So the other thing that you have to do with buy-in is not only do you have to bring them in, you've got to ask their input. And when asking their input, I'm going to lead not by consensus. Do you understand what I'm talking about here? I'm not trying to get all 40 of us in this room to agree on something, because if we do that, well, we're not going to leave here until I'm really old and you're a little older. Okay, we're not going to leave this room until we all have consensus. I'm looking for collaboration. So I'm looking for, let's give ideas, let's bounce ideas off of each other, let's come up with different options, let's think of new options. But then what happens is, a lot of times is in leadership, all the time in leadership, the leader has to make the decision. And if the leader makes a decision, you got to be firm on that decision, you just got to move forward. But if you've actually collaborated, you're bringing them along. So you've got your awareness, you've got your buy-in, and then you've got your ownership. And this is another hard part for a leader. Let people do their job. I'm a continual fixer. So if I see something that's wrong at home with my sixth grade son who's doing his science project, and I think, oh man, Keegan, I can help you better with that, I got to let him do that, or he's never going to learn. But a lot of times, the reason why we don't let people do their job and fail sometimes or succeed is because of our ego. Well, I don't want to look stupid to Miss Corporal because Keegan can't get his science project done. Well, if Keegan's not going to do his science project, that's on Keegan, and he needs to learn that. Now think about that as in your team. Sometimes you've got to give your team the opportunity to fail. Perfection is a myth. And course correction is a normal thing that we do. Think about it. When my father-in-law was in the Navy, and when he was on an aircraft carrier and he was flying off the aircraft carriers, one of the stories he tells all the time is that, you know what, perfection or trying to fly the perfect flight plan is a myth. You're always course correcting because there's a wind shear. There's other things. The carrier is going up and down when you're trying to land on it. Nothing's perfect. The only thing that you can do is course correct. I think a lot of times as teams, where we really fall with ownership so that people really don't feel like it's their job, is we think that we've got to do it all for them. It's leadership, it's not doership. Remember that. You're not here to do stuff for people, you're here to lead people. Now think about that with your friends. You might go, well, hey, I don't have a position. I'm not really in a position of authority. Do you know what? My son, who's in 6th grade, leads me by the way that he reacts to people. He reacts to people who are sick. He has a great influence on me. I can influence Dr. White. I can influence John Wood. Leadership is not a position. It's the idea and it's the mindset that you are influencing and you're serving people. So when you look at execution, really what you have to understand is it's a mindset. It's an awareness first, it's buy-in next, then it's ownership. And then once you have that, and if you have a team that really does all three, you've got what you probably see in the 1954 in the high school team, Milan High School, that won the state tournament in Indiana. Or you see the 1980 hockey team. Or you see any team that you're like, how in the world did they beat them? Like the Indiana Hoosiers beating Michigan State this year twice. You know, you see all that and they can't even get out of the first round of the tournament. So the whole idea of it is you see teams do things because of their philosophy more than because of their talent. So that's execution. Execution is putting a plan in action but making sure the right people are there to make it happen.